guys? Welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm doing a very big update to the video I covered earlier in the week, which is titled, My Girlfriend is Worried About Your Channel Now That She's Pregnant and Really Wants to Get Married. And I'm not going to do a big recap of everything that happened. You know what happened. But the main theme of today's story is the paternity test. As you are aware, that was obviously a big thing that was talked about in the comment section. His girlfriend's pregnant. Our guy Roy is very successful. And, so one has to take care of himself nowadays. Well, as it turns out, that certainly a fire was lit under Roy's butt after the couple videos, and he went and got the paternity test done. An expedited paternity test, because it can be done. You can get the results pretty quickly. And he paid a buttload of money for it. But he's got the money, it had to be done. But you see, that is only part of the video here. You're going to hear the results pretty soon. The other part, the main part, is his girlfriend, Maria, who I was calling Hurricane Maria. You see, Roy informed her about both videos. She watched both videos, and she was none too happy about him sharing her story, their story, a bunch of strangers, and our opinions on things. So when I was joking about the Latina hellfire and Hurricane Maria, well, guess who's getting it? Me. And you guys and all that. But all jokes aside, she was not too happy about that. However, she has written in, and he transcribed it because he had to record it, and he just transcribed it because he was going to write all that whole thing out. And what she's going to share, her side of the story on things, on how they met, their relationship, all that, making it as clear as day that she loves him, she wants to be married to him, all that, she's not using him for the money, all that type of thing. And so since Roy is now part of the community, and he's a good guy, and we want to help him, I'm going to let her say her part, because, okay, fair enough, because she was blindsided by this whole thing. And you guys get to have quality entertainment listening to her have words with me, as well as the back and forth, because I still stand by the things I said. I stand by that as a wealthy guy and a very successful guy, he should get a prenup, and certainly talk to a lawyer about a trust. I stand by what I said about the paternity test, given what we know and how things are nowadays, all these things. But anyhow, I think you guys will find this quite entertaining. And again, I'm doing it for Roy here. Roy's going to get plenty of entertainment. Listen to his girl have words with me today, as you. So the saga continues on. He says, Hi, SSM. It's Roy again. I bet you weren't expecting to hear from me this quickly, but here I am. Actually, dude, I was not expecting to hear from you, let alone your girlfriend. I showed my girl the first videos you made soon after I sent you my second email. Dude, do you have a death wish? I wasn't kidding about the Latina hellfire, and you got it. She was furious. There's a surprise. Furious to say the least, after reading the comments. She made me cancel our lunch plans and grab Subway instead. Well, she definitely is pissed off if she made you eat Subway. Ugh. Once you have Jersey Mike's, guys, you'll never go back to Subway. And no, I'm not taking endorsement money from fucking Jersey Mike's. She insisted we take the paternity test that very day. In other words, I'll show that asshole in the car and all his freaking people that I'm not a cheater. And I love my man. Well played, man. Nice chess move. Instead of you having to say to her, I want a paternity test now, damn it. Instead, you show the videos. And she gets mad at me and mad at all the guys here. And she insists upon it. Nice move. At first, I thought it was too early for that kind of test, but apparently you can get one after the 7-week mark. Because in her irregular cycle, she didn't even know that she was pregnant until around the 8th week. So we went ahead with the prenatal paternal testing. Maria insisted we get the test done at 2 different labs, just like your viewer suggested. That's a good idea. I went for the most expensive fast-track packages from both labs. And honestly, I could have probably bought a car with what I spent. Those lab tests are no joke. I got the first result in the afternoon, and the second a little bit later. I didn't expect to get the results this fast, but I suppose paying more than double the money helps. It's called money talks, dude. So here's the update. Contrary to the popular opinion in your community, it turns out, drum roll, I am indeed the father. Hallelujah. Thank the Lord. Now, some people might be thinking, oh, shit. Well, I say, hallelujah, and I'm happy for you, because I know you love Maria. I want to be with Maria, and I sure as hell would hate to see what happened. You know how heartbroken you'd be if this wasn't your kid. So congratulations. Seriously, I absolutely mean that. I hope you have a beautiful, healthy baby boy or girl. Maria watched both of your videos and read all the comments. And I don't know why she did that to herself. She wanted to send you a message herself, so I'll let her take it from here. I transcribed this email from a voice recording, again, as typing it all out would have been all too time-consuming. Oh, goody. Thanks, man. This is going to be fun. So here we go from the letter from Maria. Get your popcorn. Pause the video if you're home. Go get your popcorn. Go get your beers, because you're going to find this entertaining. She says, hi, this is his girlfriend. Since he's called himself Roy here, one of my brothers, Daniel, and me, Maria, I'll stick with those names. First off, I've watched both of your videos. I understand Roy was cautious, but I honestly never been insulted by so many strangers on the internet before. Wow, just wow. When a woman says wow, or wow, just wow, that basically means fuck you. I don't even know you people, and you don't know me. For what I've seen, Roy didn't say anything hateful about me either, so why were the comments so harsh? Roy did not say anything harsh or hateful at all, yes. But I want to say something right here. I have to interrupt. Maria said, you don't know me, and the commenters don't know her. I don't know you, Maria. And the commenters, the community, they don't know you either. But the thing is, we have been around the block. I'm 47. A lot of the guys in this channel are 30 plus, have been in plenty of relationships, experiences, as have I. And while there have been good ones, there's also been a lot of bad ones. And this whole channel was started to help guys as a men's community, with my 4% of women out there that are awesome, to help guys out and to share stories from men all around the world about their triumphs and their tragedies. And sadly, there's a lot of tragedies. Many men here have been through bad divorces, breakups, been cheated on, all that. And when you have done, I've done thousands of videos between all three channels, and thousands more I haven't shared, certain patterns emerge, and my own personal experience. So while I don't know you, and the guys who don't know you, we understand reality, we understand female nature, what can happen. Not all women are liars or cheaters or users, but a hell of a lot are. And as a result of that, this channel is very popular to help guys out there be aware of what's out there, to be careful, to hear from stories from other guys around the world. You start to see patterns here. And so Roy found the channel, and obviously he was listening to these things because it's entertaining, but also to help him. And the channel is also about helping guys become the best they can be on multiple fronts. So while, again, I don't know you, and the guys who don't know you, we understand female nature and what a lot of women are like. I'm sure you know plenty of women your age that aren't exactly the best character people, that certainly have cheated and used guys and all that. I'm sure you're well aware the dating market is a mess. I can go on and on. So when a guy writes in about a situation where he hasn't had a whole lot of relationship experience and all that, and he's very successful, made a lot of money, and all of a sudden this beautiful woman is on him like that and really into him, understandably, we're going to advise him to be cautious. And it's not personal against you or anybody else in that matter, you know? And so I'm thrilled to hear that the paternity test shows that it's his child. I'm very happy, and I want the best for you, you know. And I know you're blindsided by this. You're not happy about this whole thing, but you know what? This is the men's channel. We're going to help the guys out, and I stand by what I said about the paternity test and the prenup and stuff like that. But I want to help Roy, because Roy seems like a cool guy, and so I'm doing this, reading your thing here, because I want you to be heard. You know, you're part of this deal too, and you're important to Roy, obviously. You know, but understand, we don't know you. And a lot of people always say, you don't know me. But the odds are, you know, you look at the odds and what can happen. And I want you to be the one that is different, that proves us wrong. So I had to say that, guys. I had to make it clear when people always say that you don't know me or da-da-da-da-da. Well, we know statistics. She says here, I'm 24 years old. My mom is from Venezuela, and my dad is a Florida native. As Roy mentioned, I have 7 older brothers. When I was 12 years old, I was scouted by a well-known modeling agency to be a child model. It says here, I was a shy kid and quickly realized modeling wasn't for me. Well, that's good because, let's be honest, most models turn into giant assholes. After talking with my parents, I quit. Even now, agencies still approach me sometimes, but it's just not the life that I want. Good. Good for you. I hate to sound vain, but I need to say this because some people mocked Roy for calling me beautiful, saying that as a virgin, he was just smitten by the first woman who gave him attention. Well, that's usually how it works. A lot of guys that haven't gotten any, and all of a sudden a beautiful woman's after him, a guy who probably has been rolling with the ladies, literally, one has to question that, you know? Beauty is subjective, I agree, but let's just say my boyfriend doesn't have too low of a standard. I'm far from perfect, but my parents raised me with strong values. My dad is my rock. He's always protected me and guided me. My mom is my best friend. She taught me how to carry myself as a woman. My dad raised my brothers differently, though. Some of them, especially the single ones, have made questionable choices like sleeping with married women. As some people point out in your comments, I once asked my dad why he doesn't step in, and he told me, he says, "You're my daughter. I have a responsibility to protect you until I die. Your brothers are men. My job was to raise them to be strong and capable. The rest they have to figure out themselves." Well, that's a pretty good line, but I would still, if I was the father, smack him upside the head for banging married women or women in relationships. That ain't cool. I didn't like the answer, but I never questioned it again. As for my past relationships, I will not go into detail, since Roy doesn't like to talk about that. But unlike the exes of your viewers, I actually grew up with a present protective father. I didn't sleep around or behave recklessly, and with my brothers attending the same school as me, I didn't have much of a love life. Well, that's good to hear. I got, there's all we talk about all the time in the channel about body count and stuff like that, and it's makes your mouth drop nowadays, what women do, and the numbers they have because of empowerment nonsense like that. I got no problem when, say if a gal that's 25 and she's had a few boyfriends over the years, and of course, as boyfriends she cared about, she slept with them. That's one thing. It's another thing when, college comes around and the hoe phase, and next thing you know, she's got a body count of 40 fucking dudes her freshman year. That's crazy. Clearly, from what you're saying, that certainly wasn't you. That's very good to hear. Because if that was the case, I'd be telling Roy, get the fuck out of here. I did have a relationship in university, though I wish I never did. Just to be clear, I broke up with my ex almost a year before the hiking trip, but he wouldn't leave me alone. He kept trying to get back together, and I eventually reached my limit and told my brothers, which I should have done much sooner. I'm not sure what they did, but my ex finally left me alone. Well, 7 old protective older brothers coming after you, that will do the job. They probably fucking threw him in the Everglades or something. As for Roy, I'm not exactly sure what he discussed with Daniel, but until recently, he didn't fully know the situation. Roy is a very prideful man, somewhat possessive, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He doesn't like the idea of me being with anybody else. Because of that, we've had an unspoken rule: we don't talk about my past. A man needs to know about if he doesn't want to know, we can go back and forth here, but let's just say this, Maria. If you have skeletons in your closet that you haven't told Roy about, even though he may not want to hear it, like, shit, I don't want to hear it, he needs to know. I'm going to give the major benefit of the doubt based on how you're writing here and everything like that you don't have any, holy shit, skeletons in your closet. I hope not. But if there are skeletons in the closet, if you made one video one time and it popped up on the internet, which I doubt, or something like that, he needs to know. Because eventually it will come out. It ain't going to be pretty. So you need to lay all your cards on the table. Anything that could be damning or a problem, you need to let him know. Even if he says he doesn't want to know it. Roy, you need to know. And guess what? If Roy has skeletons in his fucking closet, whatever that may be, he needs to if he's done some shady shit to make his business successful, and any bullshit was going on, questionable stuff, he needs to tell you too if you're going to get married. So it goes both ways. Where the hell was I? Because of that, we've had an unspoken rule: we don't talk about the past. It's actually one of the sweetest things about him. In short, I didn't start dating Roy to get over somebody else. And if I had, Roy wouldn't even consider me. Okay, well, that's good. A lot of times women cannot be alone. They will have a bad breakup. They immediately go on to the next guy before healing and finding out what went wrong on their part and stuff like that. So, okay, that's good to hear. Because that was a question I had that in his first story here, that immediately relationship ended and you're on to him. Well, my brother Daniel arranged the hiking trip to help lift my spirits after everything went down. When I first met Roy, and by the way, he downplayed his appearance in a lot of your videos, I found him rather intimidating. Square face, stocky build and broad shoulders, strong jawline, long canines. Really, you're going to get about his teeth? And deep-set, slightly swollen eyes, which I later found out they were from a Muay Thai match that weekend before. He was clearly new to hiking, but since he was friends with my brother, I politely started giving him tips. I still don't get the tips on hiking. Put on the backpack. Put on good sturdy shoes. Bring some water. Bring some food. Walk up the fucking trail. But okay. When he found out I was majoring in astronomy, by the way, teaching isn't the only career path for astronomy majors. He became very interested in asking me about some space-related concept. We ended up talking about almost the entire trip about celestial objects and even philosophy. Well, that's quite the conversation for the trail. I knew she was going to say something about I made a joke about she's majoring in astronomy. What are you going to do with an astronomy degree? Teach? That's usually what it is. I mean, or it's a bullshit degree just to, say you got a college degree. Here's the deal, Maria. If you go on to become an astrophysicist and you work for SpaceX or NASA or something beyond teaching, then I'll be the first to admit that I'm wrong. So you can come back in years' time to let me know about that. But I knew there's going to be a comment about my wisecrack there. She's feisty, Roy, isn't she? Two things about him stood out to me. He was genuinely curious and eager to learn and was not simply trying to have a conversation with me. And two, even though he didn't know philosophical terms, his thoughts aligned with or even challenged those ideas. It was clear this was simply how his mind worked, not something he picked up from reading philosophy books, which given his packed work and gym schedule, he barely had time for anyway. At the moment I realized this man was a real genius. After the trip, I hoped he'd ask me out. But he didn't. Ugh, the nerve of him not asking you out. I thought maybe he was in a relationship or gay. Hang on here. You tell me because, God forbid, he didn't ask you out, therefore only could have been one of two options. Either he was in a relationship or he's gay and likes dudes. Is it possible, Maria, that simply he just wasn't interested? Nope. What I tell you guys about women hating rejection when a guy that are so used to guys being into them and a guy doesn't make the move on them drives them nuts. Right here. I asked my brother, and he laughed at my second speculation, and he said no to both, and told me to ask Roy out if I was interested. I asked if he was sure I'd be okay with me dating his friend, and he said I'm fine with that one. So I asked Roy out, and for the first time in my life, I ever asked a guy out, and he rejected me immediately. Woo! And in front of everyone. I was mortified. Mortified? Again, back to the whole... So guys... You've heard me say this countless times. This is a perfect example. It drives women crazy being rejected. And they usually respond to it one of two ways. Either they become psycho and try to make your life a living hell, or they become obsessed with you and they're going to get you because their egos cannot handle, especially if they're beautiful and guys are after them, that a guy would turn them down. They become mortified. So... you said yourself you were a model, good-looking girl. You were probably about 21 years old, 20 years old at the time. It drove you nuts. Nice move, Roy, but Roy wasn't trying to be a playa. He just wasn't interested. He's trying to focus on work. Yet my brother seemed surprised. I actually asked him, but he also seemed like he had expected the outcome. After constantly asking for some time, Daniel finally told me a bit about Roy's past. And I was heartbroken. But I also gained deep respect for Roy. I didn't know if it was his strength, his difficult past, or his quiet competence that drew me in, but I was hooked. Well, by him rejecting you, immediately that drew you in because it made... What? A guy rejected me? But two, the fact that, yeah, he had a hell of a past. You know, it's quite a story, and probably the whole damaged guy thing drew you in. And no, it wasn't about the money. At that time, all I knew was that he ran a software business. Hang on. This is the 2020s. I'm sure with the slightest level of intelligence, if you know a guy runs a software business, a tech business, obviously does well. I mean, come on here. Well, I started showing up where he'd be, dressing the way he liked, cooking his favorite foods, and eventually he gave in and he asked me out. See? She's chasing after him. The rejection drove her nuts. So now this is what women do when they really like guys. They are going to make it obvious and make it as easy as possible that you ask him out. She wasn't going to ask him out a second time and be rejected, but she was going to keep popping up everywhere and looking hot, yeah. When I asked him what he wanted in a woman, he said the following. Oh, this should be good. Number 1, someone who can cook good food. Okay, I agree with that. Number 2, someone who won't give him a headache. Given the length of this email, Maria, good luck with that one. 3, someone who'll make him the only man in her life. Well, that's a good one. In other words, it's all about me, baby. No fucking cheating. Really, there wasn't a 4 and 5 like takes care of herself and stays thin and keeps her ass looking good, but okay, fine. I told him I could manage 2.5 of those. He'd get a headache when necessary. At least you're honest. Roy's a lot like my dad. Drives a truck, spends his free time working out, fishing, or with guns. My family didn't click with him right away, but over time they became good friends. Roy hangs out with my brothers and sometimes with my dad. About a year into our relationship, I asked my dad what he thought of Roy. He said, he's one of the most capable young men I've ever come across, and I'm glad you're happy with him, but be careful. He's almost emotionless and highly calculating. While those traits aren't inherently bad, something about him gives me the impression he might be a bit sociopathic. Well, given Roy's background and what he went through as a kid, he had to be mentally hard and probably a bit emotionless. He was betrayed by everybody they cared about, his mom, his dad, and he had to be a survivor. And you're not going to get anywhere in business if you're not very calculating, and you get the point. But I understand your dad's concern for his daughter. I had seen hints of that before, but never took it seriously until my dad pointed it out. Roy is exceptionally good at reading people. He seems quiet and modest, but if you spend enough time with him, you'll realize he knows you better than you know him yourself. Yeah. Watch out for the quiet guys. The quiet guys are just sitting back and observing it, taking everything in. He often knew what I wanted or what was bothering me before I ever said a word. Roy is not a bad person. He's just has a complicated past. And that drew you in, just like so many girls with the damaged guys. How many women are chasing after the bad boys, the chattered Tyrones that are so damaged, and the girl could be the one to fix them? Look, this is as textbook as can be. And the fact that he didn't ask you out and he rejected you, yeah. I know you love Roy, but I'm just pointing out what I see here. So please stop calling him a psychopath. I never called him a psychopath. Maybe somebody in the comment section did. It's not that he doesn't feel anything, but he's numb to most things. I think it's a mix of his intellect, solely logical perception of things, and what he's been through. Well, I agree with that. I got him to promise me that he'd try therapy for my birthday, but it didn't go very well. I gave him space during the first session, but when he described it as so-so, I decided to join the second one. Well, it shouldn't be just him and the shrink, but I know you're trying to help him. And by the way, watching my channel, as many guys have said, is therapy to them. Writing in their story is therapy. So, in a way, he's been doing what you had wanted to do by finding my channel. Even though you probably think I'm the fucking devil. That's when I realized he wasn't there to get better. He seemed to generally enjoy the conversations, but not in the way you'd expect. He started asking the therapist complex psychological questions about himself, increasingly challenging questions. It felt like he was more interested in testing their knowledge than actually seeking help. He's probably like, fine, I'll come here because Maria won't leave me the fuck alone, and then I'm going to have fun with these people. Well, you know what? To give Roy credit here, a lot of these shrinks I hear about are, shouldn't be in business. I think I could do their job better than them, and I don't have a fucking degree. But then again, 5 years of thousands and thousands of stories, I think, has given me somewhat of credentials here on human nature. As his questions became harder and harder, the therapist started to struggle to answer. We switched therapists several times, but eventually I gave up. I've come to accept that this is just who he is. Still, I kept encouraging him to maybe it will help in some way. Okay, I get you're trying to help him, but at the end of the day, I think he's wired a certain way and staying that way. I think the extent of his therapy is my channel. End of story. And by the way, Maria, don't get him to try to open up and share his insecurities and cry in front of you and all that pussy-ass shit. That ain't gonna happen. Because you may think you want him to do that, to open up and expose his inner child. But if he does that, I guarantee you'll be turned off 30 seconds later. And don't do it, Roy. Strong and stoic for your lady. And your future child. The current therapist suggested Roy write down his experiences, and he sent you a very trim version of his history. Aha. He's usually very private, so it was very unusual for him to reach out to a YouTuber. I don't think he really needed advice. You should have noticed that as well. Roy's a sharp guy, has his shit together. It seemed like he kind of anticipated. It was almost like he was sharing stories, then he would then comment like he knew I was going to answer. So yeah. He's a very decisive person. I think he already knew what he wanted to do. Looking back, I think this was his way of nudging me to push for the paternity test. Not because he doubted me, but because he wanted to see how I'd react. If he truly had his doubts, he would have just asked me directly. That's the kind of man he is. As for the big question, am I with him for the money? Okay, here we go. What's she going to say, guys? Is she here for the money? She says yes and no. At least you can admit it. But elaborate. No, I didn't chase him for financial security. I'm not with him because I expect him to fund my luxurious lifestyle. Yes, I enjoy our trips and gifts, and it's comforting to know my partner earns close to 8 figures, but I don't need that. 8 figures? As in has earned 8 figures over the years of his business? I know Roy's fucking loaded. Roy downplayed in the first story about where he was, in terms of his business. In the second story, then he really elaborated. Damn, dude. I'm impressed. I'm glad you can at least... A lot of women would just say, no, 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 no. Well, at least you're saying, yes, I enjoy the lifestyle. And I enjoy the comfort of that. At least you can say that. But, if Roy lost it all tomorrow, would you still be here? It's a fair question. Though not as wealthy as Roy, my family is financially comfortable with stable real estate investments, and if Roy left me tomorrow, I'd be devastated, but I'd be fine financially. Well, I'm glad to hear you'd be devastated, but, in terms of because you care about him, but he said your family's well off. It's funny that people that do very well will always say, like, we're comfortable, even though they're fucking tens of millions of dollars in assets. I've already told Roy I'm happy to sign a prenup. I'd marry him tomorrow if he asked, but knowing him, he'd probably take his time. I'm willing to wait, but I will not hide what I want. Well, I'm glad to hear you're on the same page in the prenup front. Good. That was a major thing I wanted to say. Look, he's got all these assets and all these things he's bringing in before the marriage. And obviously, he said you have a trust too, so obviously you have a prenup too. I had a lawyer write in about a month ago giving in details. He handles this type of thing about prenups. I suggest he checks that out. But yeah, both of you get attorneys, both of you have your prenups, both of you sign it well in advance for any wedding bills or anything like that. Yeah. I also think Roy, given the fact that he has partners and shareholders, should have certainly a prenup and some kind of perhaps what can be put into a trust, things to protect things. He needs to talk to a lawyer because I would imagine you're smart enough, Maria, to understand, I know you're 24, that things happen. You could have two people that love each other to death, but there could be some irreconcilable differences that causes the couple to split up. Who knows? And it's not fair to him, his partners, his shareholders, everything he's worked for, to have that hammered because, you know what I mean? Here comes the sirens. Ay. What else? I don't want to say this, especially with how quick some of you are to call him things like a sociopath or a psychopath, which he absolutely is not. But let me tell you something, you have no idea what kind of man Roy really is. I never called him a fucking psychopath or whatever. That was part of the comment section. Anyone who truly knows him would know he's the very last person you'd ever think of deceiving. It may be hard for you people to believe that I love him for the man he is. You people. Someone who went from being a Hindu teenager drowned in debt in a Muslim-majority third-world country to building a $250 million empire in just over a decade. I respect the hell out of him. I don't think he's a sociopath or psychopath. How many people can actually do that? Not many. Even if he lost everything tomorrow, I know he'd rebuild. And even if he couldn't, I know he'd still be the rock that me and our future children can lean upon. And I believe that. You know how many successful entrepreneurs and businessmen have had things go bad and lost darn near everything? And because they're passionate and they're smart and they're driven, they start over? Yeah. Roy speaks 4 different languages. has competed in 8 amateur Muay Thai matches over the years and never lost. And mind you, Muay Thai is just a hobby for him. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, so I know how impressive that is. Hey, that's awesome. That's great. Well, get your kids in martial arts as well. Put a Muay Thai versus a Taekwondo, the Muay Thai will win every time. Maria, maybe you'll be able to do jump kicks and high kicks above the head, but nothing will top some elbow punches and a roundhouse kick. What else? He's accomplished things that would generally shock people. I can't share them because I don't want to reveal his identity. He's a dependable, strong partner, a talented and capable man, and an incredible lover. Well, I didn't need to hear that. But, so as you can see, guys, Maria really digs him. And honestly, those are just surface level things. I could write 100 pages about what makes us special, and that won't be enough. Well, I could believe you could talk 100 pages worth. You are a chatterbox, Maria. Some of you in the comments seem to think the only thing Roy has going for him is money, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I know Roy has more going for him than money. Long before we started dating, Roy was actually quite popular among the women he interacted with. He's quiet and introverted, but the more you talk to him, the more you get to know him. And no, I'm not talking about his finances. He's extremely private about that. And only those very close to him know what he means by his small business. The more his natural charm begins to show. Good, Roy, don't talk about your fucking money. It's not that he couldn't date anyone, he simply didn't want to, and honestly, I'm glad he didn't. Well, he was focused on, look where he came from. He knew he had one shot. He wasn't focused on pussy, he was focusing on success and money. She goes on, yes, I want to marry him. I want to marry him to lock him down, not because I want a share of his finances, but because I generally want to call this man my husband and have his commitment to spend the rest of his life with me. If that makes me a horrible woman, so be it. Okay, let's not get carried away now. I know you're mad at me. I know you're going to be mad for a while, but let's not get carried away. I can tell you care about him very much, otherwise you wouldn't have taken the time to do this. As for the idea of baby trapping, let's not even go there. I was waiting for this. Roy is not some naive child who didn't know what he was doing. We are both consenting adults, fully aware of what could happen, and we were both more than okay with it. He dislikes using condoms, so for most of our relationship, I was on birth control up until recently. Smack! That I disagree with. Early on, it should have been condoms all the way, especially early on. I would have preferred not to have a child outside of marriage, but I've always dreamed of having a big family like my parents. After seeing my friends getting married and having children, and considering Roy's attitude towards it all, I realized that if I want to have at least 8 children, good heavens, she says, yes, 8, that's non-negotiable, I needed to make some compromise and start sooner rather than later. So I'm going to stop there about that non-negotiable part. Up until this point, I like you, Maria. You're a firecracker, but I like you. And it takes guts to write into me and all that and deal with all that. But I don't like this non-negotiable crap. Because that sounds like ultimatums. And no good relationship will ever grow beyond ultimatums or my way or the highway or non-negotiable. That is not a good way to go. You truly love Roy, and you know what? I believe you do. Then you got to drop this non-negotiable thing. I don't get it, but I can understand when something's so important to someone, they might get a little riled up, and you're pregnant and the hormones are there. But when it comes to something with regards to children, which is a massive, huge, gigantic, important thing, you got to see eye to eye. So if you want 8 kids and Roy wants 4, and that's it, you got to work something out. It can't be your way or the highway. This is never going to work. Okay? That ain't cool. That's a red flag. I don't like that. So sit down and talk about it. Nobody walks away from a negotiation happy. And I know Roy knows that business line. So you got to work it out. And he shouldn't be forced into that or be browbeat or any of that type of thing. I know you don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. If the situation was reversed, Maria, and Roy wanted 8 kids, you only wanted 2, and he was basically saying, my way or the highway, you're going to give me 8 kids, I'd have a problem with that. And I'd be on your side, say, that ain't cool, fucking Roy, No. So you need to talk about that. But I'm telling you now, you got to drop that shit. You love him. There's no non-negotiable, my way or the highway. Otherwise, your relationship is doomed. And I want to also point something out, and I got to say it. When women give high-value men deal breakers or ultimatums and stuff like that. This is non-negotiable. Start turning into little tiny tyrants. High-value men, as we call them, men like Roy, who are very successful and driven and have money. Understand this. High-value men have options. So when a woman starts, who was seemingly pretty great before, turns into a little tyrant, guess what? He can replace her. And so I don't want that to happen to you guys. So you got to drop this stuff, because a guy like Roy can get women in his 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. You get the point. You know he's a catch. Okay, so you got to drop that because you love him, and you push a man too far, he's out of there. I teach guys that when they push you too far, you get out. So just, I'm not saying to be cruel, but you understand this. No more of this deal, what you say, non-negotiable ultimatum thing. Especially something this big. You come together and you work that out and you have an agreement. You may not get 8 kids, you might get 5 or 6, but that's still pretty good. And by the way, 8 kids, you're going to build an army barracks to put those 8 kids. That's a lot of work. Have 1 kid. See how that goes before you talk about 8, heaven's sake. You're going to need a freaking bus to transport those kids around. And oh, by the way, how are you going to become an astrophysicist and use that astronomy degree and prove me wrong if you're going to have 8 kids? That's a lot of work. You don't want me to be right about my joke about this being a teacher, so you can't have 8 kids because you got to become an astrophysicist for not Tesla, SpaceX or whatever. Okay, she goes on and says, so I had a direct conversation with Roy and asked if he would be comfortable with me coming off birth control. He paused for a second and said he didn't have any issue with it. Well, Roy, if that's what you want. I was beyond overjoyed, and considering how active our bedroom has always been, even with his hectic schedule, it didn't take long for conception to happen. I'm sure. Well, okay, he didn't mention that, and that's the truth. Okay. I mean, if you want to have lots of children, not necessarily 8 for goodness sake, but let's just say a lot, and you're 24 years old, well, this is the time to start. I mean, if you both know you want to be together and all that, okay, you got to start at some point. But still, I'm glad he did the paternity test because of his wealth and all that. You're convincing me thus far that you're with him because you love him, want to be with him and all that. But still, I stand by what I said. But now, I'm glad the results show what it did. I don't care to defend myself to strangers on the internet. I like how there's conversations here and all of a sudden back to you people and strangers on the internet. She's still pissed. I'm saying all this because Roy encouraged me to speak my mind. He said it would help clear my head, and it has. Now, even though I'm angry at you people, I knew there was going to be a you people again, I'm fully aware of the divorce statistics in this country and how god-awful the dating market has become. Thank you. Thank you. What I say earlier about the dating market and the divorce statistics, this is why I, as well as all the guys here, encourage Roy. You have to understand our side of this, Maria. This is why I encouraged him to get the paternity test. And I stand by that and will stand by it to my dying breath. And the freaking prenup. And putting stuff in a trust and all that. It has to. It's just how it is. I'm glad you really love the guy and all that, but still. You people. I also understand that many of you have been hurt and still carry unresolved trauma from awful relationships. Oh, don't go there. There are a lot of guys here that have been hurt, but a lot of guys have moved on. We like our bachelor lifestyle. But I just want to say this. Not every woman out there would like to be your ex. Well, I agree with that. Not every woman is the devil. A lot of people disagree with me, but I say that. I stand by that. There are good ones out there. I don't care if you believe me or not, but I love my man with all my heart, and I would do anything for him, even if it cost me my life. Well, you wrote into me, so it definitely shows you care about him, or you just want to yell at me. But I believe you care about him. I know I can't prove that to the heartless man sitting next to me right now with that stupid, entertained expression. In other words, Roy. She's still pissed off at Roy. But I'm fully committed to being the best partner to him and a wonderful mom to his kids. I'll spend my life proving that to him. That's good to hear. I generally hope, we're almost done here, guys. I generally hope you all find someone to love as well. and someone who generally loves you back. Yeah, it's called our dogs and cats. Without pretending to be someone you're not. From the comments and from watching some of SSM's videos, it's clear that most, if not all of you, want that. Otherwise, you won't be so invested in this stuff. You're just afraid to open up because you don't want to be hurt again. I really do hope you find that person. SSM, that goes for you too. Nah, I'll stick to hookers, but then again, I'm a scumbag. Kidding. Most guys here, there are guys here that watch this channel. They watch it for lots of reasons. And believe me, one of those isn't necessarily so they can deep down their feel like hurt little children and want to find that girl to love them back. No, 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 no. By and large, guys here, we know reality for how it is, and we're happy being bachelors and all that. That almost sound like a little shaming tactic some girls try. But you're young. I know you're still mad at us. I hope, Maria, that eventually you'll calm down and realize that we're not so bad, and we're looking out for your boy. She says, anyway, adios, Maria. Well, Maria, that was something, and I'm glad you wrote in. I respect it a lot. I like you. I don't like that whole 8 kids, I can't remember her fucking words, or non-negotiable thing. But other than that, I like you. You're a little firecracker. But I like Latina women, and you're all firecrackers. So, okay. Now Roy's back again. Roy says, hey, SSM, as you can see, she's a chatterbox. Yeah, thanks a lot, motherfucker. That was a lot of fun on a Sunday. I'm kidding. She's cool, but still, I still stand by what I said about everything. Anyhow, that wraps up my story for now. I might be in touch if anything deviates from my expectations. Hopefully will not. But I've sent you 3 emails in the last week. Who knows? I might just send you another one tomorrow. I don't know what you're going to talk about tomorrow. What is Maria's next thing you know, Maria's parents are going to write in? All jokes aside, stay safe and healthy, brother. Sincerely, Roy. Well, there you go, guys. You got your money's worth. You got to hear me get a little attitude from his girlfriend. But anyway, I'm glad she wrote in. I'm thrilled that the child is his. I'm thrilled for both of you embarking in this journey. And I truly hope that you have a good life together. It really works out because you know what? We want some good stories out there, some happy endings, because it's a train wreck out there with relationships and marriages. And I hope it works with you guys. But Maria, you need to stop this non-negotiable crap and ultimatum stuff. That is a disaster for relationships. And Roy, you need to back that up and enforce that. But as for you both, I wish you both the best. I hope that your child is coming in, I guess, about 7 months. Is a beautiful, healthy child. If it's a girl, please, for all that is sacred and holy, don't name her Jessica because she'll be doomed, and you know that. And if it's a boy, a good, strong name, like John. John's a good, strong name. I think that'll bring your boy a lot of luck. But anyhow, guys, good luck to you. So, guys, there you go. You got your money's worth today. We wish Roy all the best. I still stand by what I said in the other videos about the paternity test. I won't back down on that. And the prenups and potentially a trust and watching out for yourself. But from that point on, wish you all the best, man. And hopefully you'll be ones that work out well. But again, take your time with things and hope things go well. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. Now, catch you next time.